I'm with Katherine Snyder from Anchor of Hope. Now, Katherine, what is Anchor of Hope?
Anchor of Hope is a Messianic Counseling Center in Jerusalem that is under the covering of King of Kings Ministries.
And when we started and why we started?
We officially opened in 2014, but I'm also training counselors, and we had a class in 2013 to train lay counselors that would ultimately become the staff for Anchor of Hope Counseling Center. We were started because there's a great need in the country for people who are suffering. And by suffering, I mean whatever life throws at you, whether it's bereavement and loss or relationship issues, family issues, a difficult diagnosis, and on we go. And there was nothing here for believers, or very little, I shouldn't say nothing, but very little serving the Messianic community.
And how did the vision for the centre start? You're in a beautiful office today.
Yeah. The vision actually started in the 80s when a friend of mine she had marital problems, and there was absolutely no one to go to talk to who was a believer. Israel has many psychologists, but they wanted to see a believer. And then in the 90s, some of us prayed. We just saw more and more the need for a counseling center, and we didn't want people leaving the country. So the vision was kind of birthed to see also a safety net of counselors in all the congregations, and that's why we're counseling, but we're also training.
Now, the office here, how did this office start as? What's the history of the office?
The history of the office is one big miracle. The counseling center is quite lovely, but it was once a pornography shop, and it was directly across from the sanctuary of King of Kings. And after the team fasted and prayed, the owner finally agreed to sell the pornography shop. And just at that time, I was in the States and had finished training and getting a higher degree. And I called the pastor, Wayne Hilston at the time, and I spoke with him. And I said, I think it's time for the counseling center. And he said, well, we just bought a former pornography shop that we think it should be a counseling center. So after that, we were off and running.
It must have been really amazing just to reclaim the building from something that was actually destroying people's lives, now to rebuilding people's lives.
Yes, it's a totally redemptive cycle because what was a place that was feeding corruption and degradation is now healing people. In fact, we have two recovery groups, one for men and one for women. And the men's group, both in English and Hebrew, are they're both 12-step groups that are for men struggling with pornography. So the place that was selling pornography, now we're helping to heal people from pornography. So that's just a wonderful thing, and I will say that a very nice thing that the Lord allowed for me to do was to be able to take down a sign that the porn shop had telling where they were now relocated, and I put up a new sign at the time that said, under new management. Yeah.
Is it just believers that come here, or is it non-believers as well?
At this point, it's just believers. Maybe in the future, when the staff grows and we're even more established, that non-believers will come. But for right now, it's a biblical counseling center. We don't only see locals, though. We see people who come here and they are maybe a year here or 2 years, so they go to King of Kings. We've seen people from 14 different countries, and we minister in English, Hebrew, and Russian. And since we've opened, we have maybe over 680 sessions with people in counseling.
Wow. Do you train locals as well?
Yes. I have a counseling class going on now. It's a year's course, and many of the people are locals. Not everybody. It's open to other people who are here more long-term. But, that's part of the vision. And we've had people, we're in our 4th year of training. And so we've had people coming from as far away as Akko, which is near the Lebanese border, and also people from Beersheba, which is an hour away from Jerusalem or more, and then from Tel Aviv. So we're seeing people come to getting training from all over the country.
Now you run courses. What sort of subjects do you run?
Oh, well, we've had subjects in marriage enrichment. We've had trauma recovery. We've had counseling sexual addiction and 12-step group. We have a boundaries class in how to establish good boundaries going on now. We've had a 7-week course on forgiveness, healing past hurts and pain. So we have ongoing seminars. We had a conference on counseling survivors of sexual abuse, because we feel we need to go into neglected areas that aren't usually touched by the body of believers, like pornography and like sexual assault. You just don't hear a lot about it, but it's very prevalent. So we've had joint conferences with other ministries. So it's part of the training.
What sort of people come for counselling?
Everybody comes for everybody needs it, including the counselor. I mean, what sort of people? We have individuals, we have families, we have couples. We've had some teenagers that come. So a very broad spectrum of the population.
Do you have to be in a desperate need to want counselling?
It's interesting that you say that. I personally believe that the level of desperation is probably in ratio to the healing people receive, because when people are desperate, they're willing to change. They're willing to take down their defenses. Sometimes people come and they kind of just want to maybe vent about someone else, and they're not really in the place that they want to change. But it's better if people are not in crisis and they're catching the crisis. But if people come and they're desperate in crisis, you usually see God really intervene in a very powerful way.
Who finds it easier to get counselling, men or women?
What do you think?
Well, I would think women.
Yeah, it's true. We do have men coming for counseling, of course, and women seem to be more open. But we just consider the whole counseling process a sacred space, a sacred and safe space that we're creating for people to really open their hearts, let the defenses down, and let God penetrate in a very deep and powerful way, deeply into their being, which is really maybe a true definition of discipleship.
Do you have some great success stories?
Yeah, we have, people have been helped. I'm just trying to think what comes to mind. Well, we've had people like, for instance, we've had someone come who had a very difficult relationship with her mom, and she worked through that. Even though she was older and hadn't lived with her mom for a long time. So she worked through that and was able to deeply forgive her mother. And shortly after that, she got word that her mother was very ill, and actually she went home and right before her mother passed away. But because she worked through things and there was forgiveness, the grief wasn't a complicated grief, and there was peace at the end. And she was able to really love her mother and take care of her mother through that. And that's just one story,
And it must be nice seeing people leave resolved with their problems.
Yes, people leave, and you work with them. You walk with people. We really see ourselves as temporary assistants to the Holy Spirit, and so people come and they're able to open up. And I tell the people that I train, how often in life do you have someone who will just listen to you without judgment for an hour or so? Just listen to your story and want to understand you and connect with you. And that in itself is healing. That's really reflects the listening Father, what the Lord does with us.
Is it emotional, counselling somebody?
Is it emotional? Well, they're emotional. But part of counseling is containing that emotion and allowing for a safe space. If you're not afraid of emotions, then you can be that safe harbor where people can express their anger or their disappointment and their frustration, and that's okay. It can come out. You don't want them to get stuck there, but they don't have to be perfect and cover up. And many believers feel very guilty if they're feeling anything negative. So it's like a double whammy. I feel bad about something, and then I feel bad that I feel bad. So, it's the whole healing process. It really is allowing the Lord to come in and love people.
Are you saving people's lives?
In my own counseling experience, I've had people say that to me. You really saved my life. Well, we've worked with people who have suicidal ideation with a plan that we were able to help. It depends on what you mean by life, too. If you mean just physical life, then I don't know. It's hard to quantify. Maybe some people we have. But if you're talking about quality of life, if you're talking about people coming into genuine healing, of seeing how they don't have to repeat their family of origin dynamics in every relationship and can become free, become who really the Lord created them to be and know God's love, then yes, we are.
Why do you do what you do?
Why do we do what we do? Well, we do what we do because we're joining the Lord in his mission of Isaiah 61, which is to heal and mend the brokenhearted. It's his mission, isn't it, to repair the ruins and devastation of generations. And so we're joining him in that mission, and it's we feel it's a sacred calling to walk beside people and be that companion and Messiah through hard times and bring the love of the Lord and hopefully the wisdom of the Lord into the situation, and minister to people in that way.
What's your prayer for the centre in the future?
The prayer for the center in the future, well, that it will really fulfill all of God's purposes. I can't tell you how much I feel the Lord is doing the heavy lifting in all of this, that it's really his vision, it's his center. One prayer is that our center, we're in the process of opening an Anchor of Hope in Tel Aviv. And we have the person who just got her master's in family counseling, Israeli. And we have the place and another ministry offered in Tel Aviv. And now we're just praying in the funding for that. And even if it's just one day, just to begin, because we get a lot of people coming from Tel Aviv. And we're hoping, the prayer is that the tent pegs will extend to the boundaries God has, not in our limited thinking, but his. So that's one prayer.
And what's your website for people who'd like to know more?
Yeah, it's www.anchorofhope.org.il.
Okay, Catherine, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.